Imagine a place where students use media, creativity, communication, and critical thinking to make stories come to life. A place where authentic audiences are enlightened by the kids who live there. Hawk Media Productions at Kealakahe Intermediate School, located in Kona, Hawaii, is an example of that place where students strive daily for the summit. From school broadcasts, Hiki No Stories, community spotlights, and now podcasts, Hawk Media Productions hopes to inspire other schools to get involved in meaningful learning for the community and the world. Believe it or not, all schools have the students, teachers, and community partners to be the spark for what school could be in Hawaii.
Welcome to Season 1, Semester 2 of the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast. This series features the stories of creative and innovative educators who are influencing, motivating, and inspiring Hawaii, the nation, and the world. Now, let's send it off to your host, Josh Rapoon.
Hey everybody, this is the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast. I am your host, Josh Rapoon. In Hawaii, all public education sits under one roof. We have one school district within which there are 15 complex areas. We are governed by one school board, which oversees one appointed superintendent. In this one district, there are roughly 180,000 public and public charter school students at 292 schools. 168 of our schools are elementary level. One of those elementary schools is Alawai Elementary in the Honolulu district. And today, we will be talking to Kwee, one of Alawai Elementary's epic 3rd and 4th grade educators. Lori, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Josh. Good morning.
Good morning. So for our audience out there, for semester number 2, we're gonna do a slightly different format. We're gonna do what I'm calling 10 questions format. So for our guests, it's gonna be 10 questions for Kwee. And we're gonna roll through these questions and we're gonna get a bunch of stuff about you out onto the table, okay? So Lori, question number 1. You have a professional diploma from the University of Hawaii at Manoa in English literature. So the question is, in what ways has that degree and that learning informed or influenced your life, your interests, your passions, your travels?
The degree of English and writing is honed in with my passion, and I share that out that from elementary school, I found the joy in reading novels, listening to stories, visiting the library, and through that, I discovered I enjoy reading and writing. And when I reached my college years, I found the desire to share that as a teacher and in my profession. And in my profession, it became a joyful reading. I can read aloud to the students. We can talk about character development, how they may connect to the world with their feelings, their experiences. And through writing, they can express themselves vividly, boldly, and personally as well, because some things are so private, we might not talk about it orally, but we could write about it, and it feels good to share it. And with that passion, I found that others get delighted. Reading is such an important, valued platform for success and happiness and well-being. And when you feel confident in yourself in that light, it just becomes vibrant. You feel whole and valued. And I feel with the reading and writing, you have that belief that I can do it. I love it. And I want to be a part of it. My 4th graders now, they love read-alouds. We're reading the story Hello Universe by Erin Estrada Kelly about a particular character who's going through some relationship issues, maybe being bullied a bit and disconnected just because of his special needs, and he can find his place in the world with other friends and acceptance and finding your talents. So my students really feel this real life connection with the characters, that they make sense of it, that they develop empathy, a more awareness of how they treat others and how they view themselves in that light. Mm-hmm. So there's many different novels we dig into. I get them excited with the Wish Tree and just for them to borrow chapter books, and now for them to tell me, Ms. Kwee, I love reading. I never loved reading before, but I love it now. And it takes that experiential feeling to really show and model, I love reading. I hope you love it as much as I do. And you can share that passion and joy with others out in the world with that. And it's so rich, it's so exciting, because when we love it, I think the students feel that electricity, and they love it too, and that excitement just elevates.
You know, Lori, as of about 3 years ago, our Department of Education has been started to move forward based on 3 pillars. So teacher collaboration, student design, and school design and student voice. So in what ways has literature and reading and all of the richness therein in your classroom sort of elevated this notion of student voice for your students?
Student voice has been a huge part of our vision and our dream, and embracing who they are. So we started, I say we, with our 4th graders last year. They chose bullying as their particular topic of interest because they had been bullied for a number of years. And through our trusting relationships and open discussions and reading and writing and researching about it, as well as students sharing openly about their experiences, they chose bullying as their topic. And inspiringly is that 2 bullies in class openly shared that they were bullies. And the class was so shocked, as well as myself, because it took so much courage and confidence to open yourself up that vulnerably, to share that. But what happened through that is the students talked about it, about forgiveness, or did they want to keep that anger in them? But they listened to the 2 bullies share that they wanted their way. They were angry, or they were abused at home. And there was compassion felt by all the others and myself, with an understanding from their viewpoint. And they discovered the value of love and forgiveness, compassion, and ways to manage anger and different emotions. So together they discovered that it's okay to be angry. We all deal with many, many challenges in our ever-changing world, fast-paced world, but they have choices in order how they'll deal with it, how they'll manage it, rather than being reactive. How can they address it with a proactive, positive outlook? So together, they healed, they talked, they researched, they read, they wrote, they actually presented their discoveries to our school. So on their own, they planned a grades 3 to 5 assembly called Voice and Choice, which talked about student voices and the choices they have, how they treat others, how they manage their emotions, and how they will not be a bystander as well if they see others being bullied or disconnected. And a huge part was understanding what is bullying. And their voice rang really loud and clear in that light.
That's awesome. You reminded me of a story. All of a sudden, I hadn't thought about this for years. I had a family friend who was an elementary school teacher up in the Cunha Plain area up there. I think it was Mililani Mauka. And she was struggling because I think she was teaching 3rd grade, but her class didn't have any books and she didn't really have the resources to get them. So I remember in February, I went to the Punahou Carnival and I bought all the Newbery Award winners. They were like $1 a book or 50 cents a book or something. And I think I got, 50 books or something and brought them up to her one day. And her kids just fell on those books like I just, brought up a whole bunch of Reese's Pieces or something like that. It was really, really a neat moment.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's very cool. Okay, so Lori, question number 2.
Okay.
So more than 30 years ago, in 1985, you got your degree in elementary education. And so let's say that you're speaking in a large auditorium to a group of 100 potential teacher recruits, all of them trying to figure out if they want to take the leap into education. So the question is, what would you say to this bunch? And please, no pressure, but don't hold back, yeah? So what would you say to them about coming into teaching?
I would stand there proudly and ask them to follow your dream, follow your passion and purpose. And we're always discovering, learning. And for myself, I've evolved as an educator. Where I started at in 1985 to where I am now, I've grown, evolved, transformed, and the students have transformed with me, and our colleagues have risen. And I tell them, follow your passion, take that risk. If it's in your heart, truly go with it, because educators are really valued. We're important and brilliant. You can make a huge impact and change lives for everyone.
What's the risk that they're actually taking that you're talking about when you're talking to them? What is that risk?
I think there might be some downplay in education, some hard facts of salaries, lack of support, so many
Resources.
mandates that are placed upon your to-do list, your plates, many initiatives. There's a lot of challenges, but in every profession there are those challenges, and just addressing it with prioritizing what's most important, seeing with clarity what's in your heart, and being true to that vision and mission that you carry.
And when you talk to them about kind of taking the leap,
Yes.
what are some of the words that you might use to describe what that leap is all about? When you literally step off the cliff into something like teaching.
Take that leap of faith, inspire. That word stands big and bright and radiates for me. I look back at my teachers who influenced me and mentors who are around me, and they inspire. They send that light and hope and courage that even if it does get really hard and difficult, we can dig deep, feel that light, and know we're not alone in this. We have many, many supports and colleagues. We just have to reach out and find them with that open heart and give all we can. And when you work hard and you're kind, truly amazing things can happen.
That's awesome. Okay, so now that you've got all of these young teacher recruits fired up, right?
Yes.
And you've talked them into taking the leap of faith. So here's question number 3. I'm going to assume that as you taught 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades at a series of schools between 1987 and 2019, and now we're here in 2020, that somewhere along that continuum, you began to gain confidence and clarity in your mission and vision as a teacher. So when did that happen? I know sometimes it's hard to identify, but you don't need to, it's not a specific date, but it's kind of somewhere along that continuum, you began to know your mission and vision. And then the second part of the question is, what became your mission and vision? Like, when did it become clear, and what was the mission and vision that became clear to you?
Sure. Along my education journey, I see this memory, and I remember this spark of high enthusiasm and interest in me with a project. It was a student-based project with student voices sharing their passion. So at Alawai, we've had support with the 21st century process and having students delve into their curiosity. So 2 questions were asked. What are you most curious about? What are you most interested in? And the wildest ideas come about. But those wildest ideas are genuine because they're authentic to the children's interests. And that particular first year in 2017, the students were interested in saving the critically endangered vaquita porpoise, endemic to the Sea of Cortez. And they were so passionate, they did not want to leave this. And we took this trajectory up to save and spread awareness for this critically endangered panda of the sea,
Wow.
where the students did fundraisers. From our garden, they wanted to sell produce to donate to Operation Sea Shepherd, which is a particular organization that patrols that particular area in the Sea of Cortez to prevent the poachers from actually dropping the gill nets where they're trying to catch the totoaba, which are these, they're prized fish where they're in the black market. The bladder is sold at anywhere from $75,000 and up for health remedies.
Wow.
And in that same dilemma, the vaquitas were getting caught in the gill nets. So it was a horrible cycle of greed and effect, but harming the vaquitas. So the students wanted to donate to a cause bigger than them and spread awareness. We actually went to the state capitol to see the legislators and share awareness of the vaquita porpoise. And it's interesting how so many people were unaware of the vaquita porpoise, including me. I learned along with the students. So every day it became not a scripted lesson plan. We knew our vision. We knew our mission, our purpose. Our student voice wanting to make a cause, a civic responsibility in the world. But in that light, it depended where their interest went. Were they speaking to our legislators about a bill, about awareness? Were they doing their fundraising, speaking out to community members about raising funds? Parents were getting involved. They were making T-shirts, Save the Vaquita Porpoise. And that was incredible, uplifting, because it's not just learning in the classroom. It's real world learning. And as educators, that's just dynamic. And it took on a huge trajectory. The following year, the students chose bullying as their project, which was a real problem-based learning. It affected them personally, but it went big out into the nation because they did videos out there and they're sharing their stories and they're living it. And
what a contrast to have the porpoise on the one hand and bullying on the other.
Exactly.
But when you give them the opportunity to dig deep into something that they care about, that's what happens.
That's what happens. You go off on these different tangents, but it's based on their heartfelt curiosities. So this year's group of fourth graders are interested in how kindness and sharing aloha can impact your health physically, mentally, your microbiome.
The ultimate science project.
Exactly. It's on a huge stem on health, well-being, and nurturing. Education is important, but so is your emotional aspect. So it's really rich how we flow.
So it sounds like what happened is that along that continuum, your mission and vision, which appears to be student agency, handing over the ownership of their learning to them, that's where that happened. And that you, from that point forward, which is until today, that's where you're locked and loaded, right, is on student agency.
You're really so correct. It's letting go of the teacher control in so many ways that perhaps I was traditionally locked into, and discovering that change is really evident in 21st century learning, to have the students be self-directed, self-motivated, have that self-confidence, just elevate them to be critical thinkers, to discover and dream, imagine. So every year, I don't know where this project will go, but it's super exciting when they're excited. Right. And it makes me want to come to work every day and get really enthused. And the students' attendance goes up because they feel empowered and they have vested in it. And then their academia, everything just elevates. When you feel good, you are stronger together.
Right. Before we move on to the next question, I have a proposal for you.
Okay.
If the template still exists for those T-shirts, for the porpoises, I would love to have a batch made so that I could give a T-shirt to each of the guests on this podcast. That would be really, really cool. So everybody would wear it going forward. I love these kinds of moments when you can latch on. So does it still exist?
It does. We
Okay.
still have our Save the Vaquita porpoise shirts. And this year's class on the Kindness Project and Aloha, they created a hashtag Share Aloha T-shirt with their logo, Inspire Peace through Aloha. And they're raising funds for their peaceful oasis. Yeah. So we have many different venues where student voice
That's very
is
cool.
meaningful. Thank
You
you
and I
so
can
much,
talk
Josh.
after the recording today.
Awesome.
We'll
Thank
figure out
you.
the details of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lori, question number 4. I want to talk about your work as a teacher with the Hawaii Opera Theater, including productions of The Magic Flute and Madame Butterfly. You appear to have a deep love for the arts. So the question is, what is that love, and what are your hopes and dreams for the arts in public education?
Art should be vibrant and a part of all the students' education. It's a huge part of our well-being. The arts is one avenue where students can find their talents and passions and realize, wow, I have this potential I never discovered. So when I did bring in Hawaii Opera Theater for a mini residency, we performed Madame Butterfly. There was a particular 5th grade boy, and he earned the role of Papagano. He had a beautiful singing voice he never realized, and he was so dynamic and confident in his presentation. It was wonderfully done by Eric, who led the directing. But the students all shined in their way, because we had kindergarten through 5th grade performing an opera, a musical, and speaking parts with props, and they performed for their parents, community guests, government officials. But I felt it was such a revelation for them to discover their talents. So that particular boy went on to Kaimuki High School, joined the drama club, and he found that's what he really loved. And he's a performer now to this day. Wow. And I have students who come back to Aloha and say they remember being in that play. It was a memory that they keep with them. It's those moments that can change you and put you on a path that I want to do this, and I can because I have the abilities if I just put my courage into it.
I feel like, Lori, we go back to you standing on the stage talking to those teacher recruits, and that one of the things that you can tell them is, look, 30 years from now, you can look back, you will look back, and you will have students who have made these journeys that just knock you out. In some ways they knock you out. In some ways they don't, because when you know them, you expect them to do epic things in their lives, right?
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that you can look forward to if you're going to become a teacher is hang in there, because over the decades you're going to have these stories that you anchor yourself in that are very special.
You are so right, Josh. Those special moments when those students come back with gratitude, appreciation, and just to know they're successful. They're out there in the workforce doing what they purposely would love to do or are doing.
Right.
That is a huge reward and
Right.
gratification right there as an educator.
Yeah, and the purpose, it's not like you're giving them a purpose. They have the purpose.
They
You're
have
just
it.
opening up the opportunity for them to
Yes.
express that. So.
Yes, we're giving them that inspiration to believe,
Yeah.
to know, to empower them is a great description.
Yeah.
They can do it.
Right. Okay, so question number 5, and then we're going to take a short break.
Okay.
So, Lori, Iolani School is a large private school in Honolulu, just 100 yards from Alawai Elementary, which is a small public school. You have partnered with Iolani educators Paola Williams and Kate Tillica over the years to do service learning projects. And I know both of them because I taught at Iolani. So the question is, what is service learning, and in what ways did these projects engage students?
Service learning is definitely a huge part of our civic learning, our giving back to the community. It's real world, not thinking about yourself, but how you're going to give back to the bigger community. Mm-hmm. And through service learning projects such as our Reading Buddies partnership with Iolani School, with Kate and Paula through the years, it's really built wonderful connections and relationships between not only the students but the educators to know, although we are so different at campuses, we are so similar as well. Right. We're students, we're learning, we're discovering, we're eager, we're healthy, we're curious, we want friends, we want to fit in. So that relationship, that service learning, it brings that realization that we are different, but we're so similar too.
Yeah.
And we can give so much to others, and that happiness comes right back.
Right. So these reading buddies, in effect, sort of where you would have a stark difference between a public and a private school student. In fact, it sort of takes away that barrier, or it takes away that line between the two and makes it invisible. So they're just two kids who are loving reading. Yeah.
That's exactly it, Josh. All those barriers are diminished, and you're you.
Yeah.
You're just you, and you're proud to be, and you're just like me.
Right. That's awesome. So everybody, we're going to take a short break and come back with more questions for Lori Kwee. So stay with us.
This is Toy and Amber from Entre Ed Talk. We are so excited to uplift this cool new podcast coming to you from the middle of the Pacific Ocean. What school could be in Hawaii? As always, we're super excited to support innovation and education. We've been lucky enough to feature some of these incredible educators on our own podcast, Entre Ed Talk.
If you're looking to be inspired by entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial educators from across the world, join us as we share their journey and insight. Be sure to check us out wherever you listen to podcasts at Entre Ed Talk, and like, subscribe, and drop us a review today. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, I'm Tyler Kern from Market Scale, and you're listening to What School Could Be in Hawaii, a podcast partnership between Market Scale and Josh Rapoon, exploring the latest insights and thought leadership in the world of EdTech. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts these days, or just head to marketscale.com, click on Industries at the top of the page, and scroll down to EdTech. We'll see you there.
Hey everybody, this is the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast. I am your host, Josh Rapoon, and we are back with Lori Kwee. So Lori, this is question number 6. Right now I'm listening to Joe Bowler's book, Limitless Mind, and she consistently references the guru of neuroplasticity and the growth mindset, Carol Dweck. Bowler also talks about becoming, quote unquote, unlocked as a teacher, as an educator. So you've described yourself as having a growth mindset. So the question is, why is it valuable for educators to have a growth mindset? And where do you go to buy one?
It's right in you. You have the capacity to do all you can. And a growth mindset just allows you to adapt to change, to be growing, evolving, transforming, and be willing to learn. And we all are lifelong learners. We have that desire and to better ourselves in every way. And there are setbacks. I've definitely had setbacks, but just learning, they are life lessons. How am I going to problem solve, move forward, collaborate?
Mm-hmm. I started my teaching career back in the early 90s, I think, with a fixed mindset. I was teaching at Punahou, and there was a curriculum that needed to be delivered to the kids, a lot of information. Yes. So I was that cliche sage on the stage. And I do know when that growth mindset idea kind of showed up inside me, and that I went through the transition to a growth mindset. So, like, what is that like? What can you tell fellow educators who may be listening to this and thinking, I think I'm kind of in a fixed mindset? What can you tell them about what that switch is like, to switch into an open mindset?
To switch into it could be scary. It's taking a risk, but everything valued is worth taking that risk. And I recommend, if it's scary, do it. Try it. If it doesn't work, go back, problem solve. But you might find when that growth mindset is working, I like it better. There's more productivity, there's flourishing, learning more, because we're constantly evolving, constantly learning.
So I might ask you, like, what is it that I'm going to be trying? When you say try it, like, what is it that I, the fixed mindset educator, might be trying?
To learn something new, to accept something different, to bring in a new awareness. For myself, it was letting go of traditional teachings and realizing there's so many standards, so much content to teach, but realizing that I can do it with integrated lessons that are really meaningful, project-based learning, bringing it about from the school grade level to the school, maybe out to the community, bringing about in the civic learning, but a huge sense of integration, interdisciplinary units that are creative and bringing about an authentic teaching.
So like when you come into a classroom situation and you simply flip and say, today we're going to actually start the semester with the 2 questions, right? And those 2 questions again are?
What are you most interested in? What are you curious about?
So right away you flipped into a growth mindset.
Into that growth mindset because we're allowing the students to have their voice and feel empowered and be drivers of their education. And I have them write down their ideas on Post-its.
Right.
So they don't feel so insecure about saying it out loud. So they write it down and then they'll chart it and post it. But they're wild, they're fun. And that's what learning should be. I think that's what a growth mindset is. It's wild, it's discovery, and it's fun along the way.
And at the same time, you're actually developing a designer's mindset. So design thinking comes into it right away because putting those ideas out on the table is part of that process, right? It's part of the inventory of ideas that you do discovery about. So that's awesome. Okay, so Lori, question number 7. Partly as a result of your work at Alawai Elementary on bullying and also the work that you noted earlier about the vaquita porpoise, you were awarded nationally with something called the 2018-2019 Life Changer of the Year Award. So the question is, what did this award mean to you? And in what ways was this award a collaborative effort, especially with your principal, Michelle DeBusca?
The Life Changer of the Year Award was astonishing. It was a surprise and a humble honor. And I'm thankful for Michelle and Joyce for penning together a grand nomination. I'm truly honored and humbled to represent Alawai School, the students, the staff, our administration, and our community, because this was a full project that took everyone. The students' voice definitely started out with this bullying project, and the students felt empowered, so they created these voice and choice assemblies. They created a bully policy in student-friendly language so that the students were able to understand. Right now, when they looked at the current policy, it was confusing to them with the vocabulary. So they collaborated and created their own version, as well as a peaceful pledge that they recite and they shared out with the school. They partnered with many different agencies and organizations, and their voice was heard. And I'm very grateful for this national grand prize finalist award to share the students' project and to share the good things happening Alawai and how worldwide we can all prevent bullying through the love, the compassion, forgiveness, and ways to manage those emotions.
As you describe this, it's like literally I can feel the energy on your campus. It must have been like wild horses got loose from the paddock at times. Like when you let the kids run with it, they really run with it. Did it feel like that?
They took it sky high. They just really were up and beyond joyful. They bonded together. Everyone was accepted, whether you were a special needs student, an English language learner. Everyone felt a part and they spoke.
Right.
They found they had each other, because there was this one boy in his presentation, he was nervous. He had 2 sentences to speak and he was not used to. He didn't have that opportunity in the past. And there another student placed a hand on his shoulder, gentle encouragement, and he said it eloquently. And afterwards, you talked to the kids, and it was so profound that it meant so much that they could do it. They were scared, but they said, we did it, and they felt proud, and it becomes prideful.
That's awesome. So, Lori, okay, question number 8. I know this sounds weird to say this, but I have a dream, and it kind of comes a few days after Martin Luther King Day. So, Lori, I have this dream of a multitude, a host, a legion of innovative, imaginative, creative educators, all taking what you took, which is a leap of faith, And I imagine this Legion all working professionally together to develop themselves together and to support each other across this state. So what I'm not imagining here, the dream is not that we would have a bunch of educators go to a conference and get watered like plants and then go back and wilt. This is actually a legion of people 24/7 who are professionally developing themselves. And I guess the question I want to ask you is, what will it take to realize this dream?
Dreams are all possible. Taking that core of people willing to come together, to inspire. For example, through this podcast, you bring about great people who have great ideas, and we connect and network, spread that networking, and it can be possible. Just bringing us together for the right cause, the right reasons, empowering leaders, because everyone is a leader. Let's come together creatively, authentically, and collaborate. It's those voices. Teacher voice matters. People's voices matter.
So the format in some ways has to be more of a intimate one-on-one, one-on-two, one-on-three type of format instead of large groups in a room. That this way the ideas that are running around in your head and in your heart are spark to another person. Is that what you're imagining?
I imagine that an intimate group and building those trusting relationships where you could be honest with your ideas, not feel judged, but appreciating each other and knowing, wow, that works there. It's possible anywhere. But yes, personal, intimate, cohesive learning groups, like our dream teams.
And is this happening at Alawai Elementary? Do you feel like your faculty, by and large, are now starting to treat each other that way, as like the relationships are trusting, people are talking to each other, you're sharing ideas?
Most definitely. At Alawai School, Michelle's a wonderful visionary. She models all that and trusts us in our job, in our vision. And we have opportunities to collaborate in our teams across grade levels, across our whole faculty. And we feel there's a lot of openness that we can share with each other, have concerns, looking at problems to solve, different ways to solve it, but being there to support each other, knowing that in the end our vision is success for all students.
And it sounds like a real key player in all of this is your principal, Michelle Debuska. Is when you have a principal who's got your back and is excited about you taking that leap whenever it is you decide to do that. That's crucial to the process.
Most definitely. She's very, very supportive of everyone and cares, number one, for the students, teachers, and everyone safe and following our vision of that caring, aloha, kindness, and following our core values at Alawai.
It seems like also, though, the teachers, in all reality, have to understand that if that cultural shift at the school is going to continue, it's up to them. If a principal of Michelle, God forbid, leaves and goes somewhere else, you have to be principal proof in a way.
Yes.
That culture has to be able to withstand someone who might not have that same value.
Yes, our culture is thriving. We take time to nurture our relationships and cultivate that unique culture and diversity we have at Alawai.
That's awesome. Okay, so Lori, question number 9. We're coming
Okay.
down towards the end here. So question number 9 is, in all seriousness, if I had a nickel for every time somebody locally, nationally, globally said, kids have a tremendous amount of latent creativity and imagination and innovation, and middle school and high school crushes it out of them. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said that, I'd be fabulously rich. So on February 29th, the Hawaii Association of Middle-Level Educators will gather at Mid-Pacific Institute for its annual conference. So let's put you back up on stage and in front of whatever number of people, 100 people who are assembling, and you're a keynote speaker. So in the context of that idea that we tend to crush the creativity out as they go upwards in grades, what's your message to that assembled group of middle school educators?
That creativity still needs to elevate. It still moves on. It's within, there's great educators, there's great opportunities The process allows the students to be self-directed, self-motivated, to envision and be discoverers and be adaptable to the changes in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. And what if I'm that middle school teacher that comes up to you afterwards and says, that's nice what you're saying, Lori, but we really have to start getting kids ready for college. So I don't know about this creativity stuff.
It's embedded in. If you dig deep into those student-based learning projects, students' interests, you can hit so many more standards deeper. In that deeper processing, it's not just superficial memory, it's meaningful, deep critical thinking, problem solving. And that's the attributes we hope every student graduates with.
I try not to ask closed questions, but I'm about to ask a closed one here.
Yes.
So I'm just curious because you've got me thinking now, is Alawai Elementary having conversations with the middle schools and the high schools in your complex area about the continuity of creativity and imagination and innovation? That, in other words, you're trying to reach out to them to say, not in these words, don't crush it out of them. We've got these super, creative kids. But are you having those kinds of conversations with other schools to see what that continuity might look like?
Our complex does have conversations. We have district events. At this point, we are starting conversations, talking about the processes. We're coming together in science, science showcases. There's opportunities for complex trainings. We are kicking off a Great Kindness Challenge, but there's different avenues where we're having opportunities to collaborate together and find that common balance, because we'd like that continuum to be seamless. We want the transition to be positive for the students to thrive and still have that creativity illuminated.
That's awesome. I'm hoping that those conversations really accelerate now in Hawaii. That all of the elementary and middle schools are having conversations with the high schools about what that experience is like for kids, so that the creativity can remain something that's valued and student voice as well.
Yes.
So Lori, we're here at question number 10. Okay. And so you started last school year, it might have been actually the year before, with the 2 questions that you described for your students. So I'm going to bring this episode to a close with 3 questions for you.
Okay.
So the first 2 questions are the questions that you asked your students. So Lori, what are you interested in? And Lori, what are you curious about? But the third question is a riff off of the title of the book that inspired this podcast. And so the third question is, Lori, what could school be? Those are the 3 questions.
Thanks. Great 3 questions.
So
I love that.
What are you interested in?
So I found my interest, it hones, it moves and flows as everyone evolves. So I'm passionate about reading, writing. I love journaling. Most recently, I found a real heightened passion in yoga. So I do core power yoga, and I found the really wonderful benefits of mindfulness and how it can help you deal with just different elements that are you deal with every day. So I teach yoga to my students every morning. We start off our morning with a yoga practice, starting with deep breathing, exhaling, inhaling. We're out there doing downward dog or forward fold or tree.
Imagine
and the children are they enjoy it very much. And interestingly, they're more focused during the day, and as a reflection back, I'm more focused, I'm more patient too. So that's been wonderful. And the faculty has asked, can I teach yoga to them? So I've done a couple classes for them after school.
Right.
So it's been really fun to share my passion.
Right.
I'm most interested I love health and wellness. How do you keep healthy, happy, and balanced? And that surely ties into our kindness and yoga study and the practices of different ways to deal with the emotions we have as humans.
And so what could school be?
School, it can be amazing, an amazing venue, an amazing experience, because school should be an experience you desire to go to find your passion, your purpose, to be highly enthused, and to continue fueling that creativity and fire, to find out who you are meant to be and who you will be.
Lori Kwee, Life Changer of the Year, an epic educator at Alawai Elementary in Honolulu, Hawaii. Thank you for being on this podcast today.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's an honor. It's fun.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome back to Season 1, Semester 2 of the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast. We are so excited to share all of the new educators for this month. Coming up next on the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast, 2020 Hawaii Charter School Teacher of the Year, Zoe Ingerson, of the School for Examining Essential Questions of Sustainability.
Find the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher, as well as at mltsinhawaii.com.
Join the ongoing conversation across social media. Look for Most Likely to Succeed in Hawaii on Facebook and at MLTS in Hawaii on Instagram and Twitter. Tag your posts with hashtag WhatSchoolCouldBe, hashtag DeeperLearning, hashtag EdChat, and hashtag Education.
Our next interviews will be recorded on Saturday, February 22nd. You can join us in the studio through the magic of Facebook Live. Find us at the Most Likely to Succeed in Hawaii Facebook page.
We want to hear from you. Send your comments, questions, and feedback to mltsinhawaii@gmail.com.
If you love this podcast series, we would really appreciate a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to help us reach a wider audience of innovative educators.
And please feel free to share this series with colleagues, friends, and family.
Your host is Josh Rapoon.
Our podcast consultant and sound engineer is Ryan Ozawa.
The editor for this episode is the Student Managing Director, May Kanata, under the guidance of Matthew Williams. Learn more at hawkmediaproductions.com.
And special thanks to Ted Dintersmith, author and education change agent.
Now, off to your next epic adventure. Class dismissed.